My address in the St. John Street community was 1112 Dakota. My mother and my grandmother had gotten this land contract to buy this house at 1112 Dakota. My family, I do not have the exact date that my family migrated to the St. John Street community, but it had to have been when the factories were opening. And so they left their farm in Arkansas and moved here to Flint, Michigan. Well, the only story I heard was that these two sisters married these two brothers. And one particular sister told her family, she said, "Ma, I'm gonna marry Charlie and go to Michigan." And they left the farm on a buggy. And I don't know whether they took a train or a bus to get here. I'm not sure how that happened. And my grandparents, I'm not sure if they had to have taken either a bus or train to get here to Michigan. The house was like, the house on Dakota Street, what color was it? It was like a pale rose, trimmed in green. It was very well kept up. And I'm going to tell you the reason why it was very well kept up, it was a family thing to fix it up. So I wasn't left out of it either. So I was given a paintbrush and a hammer and whatever else I could do. It was a very beautiful home, very comfortable, very loving. When you first walk in, you walk right into the living room. My grandmother always appreciated nice things, so we always had nice white curtains. We had a piano, because I played piano. And we had an organ. I played organ. So we had the dining room table, dunk and fight, and the buffet, dunk and fight, buffet. And then you go into the kitchen, large kitchen. Everything went on in the kitchen. That's where we conjugated, in the kitchen. But the kitchen was the main thing. So if you go in our kitchen, you may see somebody in there drinking coffee. You may see someone in there getting their hair fried, as they call it, getting your hair done. And you may see someone in the kitchen sewing. Kitchens used to be a place for parties. And people just laughing and having a good time, talking about, you know, issues that went on in the St. John Street and what went on in the factory. They wouldn't allow me to listen to all that. So anyway, it was an exciting time. It was a time where everybody was a family, you know, and they enjoyed each other's company. You know, the laughter, I can hear it now. The laughter and the enjoyment, and dancing. You may see someone dancing in our kitchen, you know. Listening to the Wham radio. First thing in the morning, you go in the kitchen, turn on the radio, Wham. You know, you hear Marcellus Wilson. We would listen to Sam Williams and the latest songs that would come out. And oh, when James Brown came on the radio, oh my goodness, that was it. That was it. The front porch, it was just nice. We sat there and watched. We watched the Buick. We live right by the Buick, so that you can see the trains and hear them. And we watched the Buick cars being parked in the lot, and that's where people would come and see the new cars. When the new cars come off that line, that's where they would park them on Michigan Avenue. And so we would watch that, and we would watch people work in their yards. And a lot of people sat on, that was a comfort zone to sit out on your porch. And sometimes you would holler across the street to your neighbor, you know, talking about different issues. And a lot of times, especially in the summer, we all gather there on the front porch and just talk and laugh. And it was, you know, it was family. Yeah, I enjoyed that, and I missed that also. Oh, my yard, what was my yard and my front yard was that beautiful oak tree. I'll never forget that beautiful oak tree and the leaves, blowing in the wind. And we had grass. We didn't have dirt for a yard. A lot of people had dirt yards, but we had grass. And we had a fire pit in our yard. We had a garden. We had a large garden. My grandparents, they made me help in the garden. And also in our yard, in the backyard, we had a patio. And that's where we had a lot of the family get-togethers, in the backyard. And my grandmother, she loved flowers. So there was a vacant lot next door to us, and she filled that vacant lot with so many beautiful flowers, and people would just come by and just admire them, and some would ask, could we, pick some of your flowers? And that's what she loved, and it was just how my people, did things. They loved beauty, and they cared about what they had. And I believe that was my grandparents' first real home, that particular house on Dakota Street, which, I always reminisce about all the things that went on in that house. How did I hear about urban renewal is when someone came to the house. I don't know whether it was a family member or a neighbor. They came and they were talking with my grandparents, and then this person said, well, did you hear about they first said the Buick was coming through to buy the houses here. And that's the first time, I believe my grandparents heard about it. And I didn't know the rest of the conversation, but it seemed to be quiet. And after that person left, it was even more quiet, because I remember my grandfather, he was just sitting there. And my grandmother, they didn't talk, they were just sitting. And I remember one day, my grandmother said, well, I don't know where we're going to go, because I have paid for this house, and I can't start over, And so she was just, I can tell it really, it really was a shock to them, because they thought they were going to live there until they died. In reality, that's what happened. During the time that, when they said that, okay, you're going to have to move, you're going to have to find a place to live. So she just couldn't handle it. She kept wiping her head. And after this real estater took her to these few houses, and she came back home one day, and we were sitting in the kitchen, the family all sitting in the kitchen, and she got up and fell. She had a stroke. And my grandfather, he was sick. He had gotten sick. He had severe emphysema. Then they discovered he had liver cancer. And of course, my mother, my grandma, I called her my mother because she raised me. She had a stroke. He was there, bedridden. So he died one week and she died the next. Then I met my husband, And at the time, he was working for the county as a city and town planner. And so with him working with the city, he was treated awful. He was just treated awful to the extent that his boss that he had, he hired him, he met him and hired him and fired him. And he told him, you have the highest credential, you know more than anybody in this, office, but you have to go. He told me, he said, you know what, we were riding around Flint, and he said, you know what, after a while, they're gonna put in a highway through here. And it's gonna be, he told me it was gonna be I-475. And he didn't tell me exactly where it was gonna start and where it was gonna end, but he said it's gonna come right through your neighborhood. And I'm suspecting that his boss did not want him to spread that news that this highway was coming through here. And he said, this has been planned over 20 years. This was a plan. He said, this is what I learned from that. And so I'm suspecting maybe they didn't want him to know too much about and say much about what was going on with Flint. How did I hear about the house on Dakota Street being torn down? Was my aunt gave me a call. My aunt gave me a call and she told me they took the house down. And that was one of the few houses that was left. And I think it was 2 people that were left, and she was one of them. She told me they took the house down. Yeah. It's just like, they taught me well how to move on, but we knew this was gonna happen. And I'm not the only one that's crying about it, because everybody was comfortable. We were comfortable where we were. And my grandparents, they couldn't take it. How did I hear about it? My aunt called me, and she said that's taking the house. That was it. And that was the end of Dakota Street. 1112 Dakota Street. That was the end of 1112 Dakota Street.